fine. It's, I think, some issue at my end. No worries. So, Anuj, so as we know today, we are going to be learning this SQL and commonly asked SQL questions and what how it could be essential for them. So I think it's already 12:03 and we should start rolling. So I would like to give the floor to you, and now the audience is all yours. Before that, guys, we just want to do one activity where you can drop in the chat box what you guys are expecting from the session and what all personas you are coming from, so that Anuj will get to know you guys better. Yeah, that would be it.
Okay. Hey, hi all. Good morning, good afternoon. So here we have gathered to have a masterclass, I guess. And yes, people are posting, I guess. I should be visible and audible to all. Yes, just few confirmations from all. Okay. For whosoever is not able to, I think, listen or even see me, just rejoin the meeting, I guess, because maximum of I am receiving yes. Okay. So guys, yes, we will be starting. I'll just be sharing the screen. Just let me know if you are able to see it, right? Yeah. I guess my screen would be visible, guys. Just a heads up. Okay. Okay, that's great, I guess. As we all know, we have basically gathered here to have a masterclass on Master SQL for data analyst interviews. So whosoever is coming even from a non-technical background, please don't be worried about. We'll be going into what is data analyst, what is exactly the role, what kind of roles and responsibilities you need exactly, and then slowly and steadily moving to the major part that is SQL for today, right? Like how important is SQL for data analyst roles, and even in interviews, what kind of question can you expect? And as the majority of us are trying to have a transition either learn these skills to jump into the data science world, so yes, it will be important for you. But yes, I just wanted to highlight that we will be going through step by step. It will not be directly SQL. It would be more of what is exactly the data analyst role. So please drop in your questions. I'll not be taking questions in between. I'll try to take the common, all of the major questions at the last. So feel free to ping your questions. I will keep having a look at that. And then at last, okay. So yes, then at last I'll be answering them. Fine. So we'll be going step by step. So let's start the session for today. Okay. So, okay. So what exactly is a data analyst? Right now, we know that in the data science world there are different profiles, right? It is data scientists, data engineers, data analysts, business analysts. All of them specifically comes into the data science on a broader level, but then all of them are divided just because the roles and responsibilities are a bit different, right? We need specialists in the industry to deal with specific things. Just like if we talk about data analyst, it's basically the role involves collecting, processing, and performing statistical analysis on large data set. Now, data sets, what exactly are the data set? Data sets are the information, right? For any analysis, we need specific information to work upon. Okay. And information, it's a processed information and it's called data. So we need a larger data set, and larger the data set, better would your analysis output. Just because if your data set is large, then you will be able to interpret or you will be able to find out major outcomes from that data. Okay. So when I talk about data analyst roles, yes, it has collecting, processing, and performing statistical analysis. Now we'll be going each by each step, like what exactly does collecting means, how does collecting happens, then how do we process the data, then how do we perform the statistical analysis, and what exactly is inside this word called statistical analysis. Because you must have heard about like performing analysis on the data, doing finding out major KPIs, but what exactly is this analysis and how we are able to find those KPIs, right? Now, some of the key points that will be repeated in this session will be going into is it's firstly data collection and cleaning that we that is something interpretable by the name data collection and cleaning. Data collection means collecting the data from different sources, right? Cleaning means cleaning the data, making the data in a usable form, because every data that is collected from different sources is not readily to be available at a usable form, right? Now, second point comes data analysis. Now, data analysis something, again, the word in itself will tell you about what kind of process are involved, but it is performing some sort of analysis, performing some operations on the data, right? You perform certain operation, you are able to derive the outcome. So there, that is called the data analysis. Now, the third point that is important is reporting. Now, you guys, you there are many students in this masterclass, right? You have always heard about reporting, and reporting goes in similar paradigm with data analyst roles. Why reporting is important? Because whatever analysis you perform, at last what is important is the outcome, and reporting contains the outcome that you are deriving from all the analysis that you have performed on the data. Reporting can be different from, either it can be a intuitive dashboard, either it can be a processed Excel file or a CSV file. It can be in any form. But yes, when we talk about reporting, reporting is basically marking the major outcome that after analysis you have got from that data. Now, fourth point is data management. Now, data management is again very important because you have large data. We talk about we need large data to perform the analysis, but then why data, when we actually have the large set of data, then the management becomes important, right? You have to manage the data, and for that management there are various tools that are available, but one of them is, yes, definitely the SQL. We use SQL to manage the data, right? And we can store large amount of data can be distributed into different databases, tables, what sort of views and etc, everything, right? But we need to manage the data. For managing the data, we have certain tools, and that we'll be talking about right today. We'll majorly talking about SQL. They will get to know that how SQL is actually helping us to manage the data. Then the last and not the least is the collaboration, right? Collaboration is important, guys, just because as I talked about the different roles, right? I talked about data scientists, data engineers, and data analysts, business analysts. Now, why collaboration is important? Because certain analysis or certain cleaning you'll be performing on the data, maybe that data as a source will be required for different other different members of your team, right? Because if you are performing some, you have performed some sort of analysis, but then when if you are not collaborating, then how come those analysis or those sort of data whatever you have performed will be useful to the other person who is using it, right? Like data scientists use the clean data to train etc. But if you perform those sort of things, then clean data will be used as a source for a data scientist to further work upon. That's why we say collaboration becomes very important. You need to collaborate. You need to collaborate with different stakeholders, need to collaborate with different members of your team in order to provide whatever analysis or what sort of operations you have performed, right? So we'll be moving further. Now, we'll be specifically talking about the major roles or the major steps that they have said or discussed, right? Now, one of them was the data collection, right? Now, data collection, what exactly data collection means, we have bit talked about that, but somewhat a deeper dive into what is exactly data collection. Now, whenever we talk about collecting the data, there can be different sources, right? Now, we in a real world knows that there are many sources of data, right? Now, if you're logging into internet, data is readily available. Somewhat there are you must have gone to shopping malls and etc, right? People are collecting surveys, people are having surveys, collecting down your information. That is also a source of data that they are collecting at the background, right? Then you visit to specific stores, right? They ask you about several information, right? Then they have this feedback form key, like or sir, ma'am, can you fill this feedback form for us? All of them are a part of collecting the data. And why it is important? Yes, you will be knowing that why they are collecting that sort of data in order to basically build down certain KPIs for them. So when we talk about data collection, yes, identifying the data sources. Now, data sources are broadly categorized into internal and external, right? Internal sources means we have databases, we have Excel spreadsheets, and we all are aware about Microsoft Excel, right? Microsoft Excel is basically a grid of rows and columns. There we store the data. There are databases such as SQL, SQLite, and MySQL. All of them constitute as a part of database, and we can store the data. Now, what are external sources? Now, external sources are the APIs or the public data sets. Now, in fact, the web scraping, right? Now, external sources, whenever we talk about external sources, there are certain public APIs, right? There are APIs on internet you will find that those you can exactly hit the API to get down the data, and those data are public data sets. You can easily access to APIs. Even they are readily available in the downloadable format. You can click on the link and download the data. Now, those are the public data sets that are available to you to experiment upon, to have certain hands-on. And yes, we have a lot of data publicly available. That's why we say that whenever you are uh, having some sort of internal hands-on work, you can definitely use those public data sets easily. Now, the third is the web scraping, and it is important just because there is data available, but it is not in a readily available form. There you need to perform web scraping. Now, what is exactly web scraping? It is designing your custom parsers or designing the custom code. It can be in any language. Now, the major preferred is Python, but yes, you can write down code in any language for web scraping. What it will be doing, it will be going to the certain website and scrapping the data. Scrapping means extracting the data. Now there is a particular source, we know that okay, in this particular page there is a whole lot of important information, but I certainly can't copy paste, right? It is a tedious process. Now the web scraping tool are designed in order to basically extract the data. It goes to a particular website, it extracts all of the data, and then it saves down the data in a file. Now that further data can exactly be used. Okay, so this is called web scraping. Now you have collected the data, right? Now the second important thing is data acquisition. Data acquisition exactly talks about all of the automated processes that is exactly built, that involves scripts, ETL tools, and pipelines. Right now, automated process can be okay. You've designed an ETL means extract, transform, and load. Now, these ETL, there are ETL tools available on the cloud, just like Azure and AWS give certain tools that are readily uh, already in a design format that you can exactly configure the information and have those tools run in an automated way. But again, you can also design scripts. Now, what these scripts will be doing, going into a particular data source, extracting the information, running down certain number of steps, and then having the data in a readable format for you, right? So that is called the data acquisition, where you acquire the data from the source. This was an automated process. Now the manual process is also there, and we all are aware whatever I talked about, going to a particular website, downloading the files, even having those surveys, all those are part of a manual process, right? They're actually conducting those surveys, recording your information, filling those information again. So those are all the manual process. Yes, still manual process also plays a major role in collecting down the data at certain domains, but yes, automated process is the go-to way, right? Now comes the data integration. Now you have collected the data, you have identified the data source, you have acquired the data, but there can be different sources of data as we're talking about right now. Suppose there is an example, right? You are a global sales manager right now. The global sales manager will be looking into different outlets of store all over the India, right? Now every store has a certain format of storing down the data, right? It cannot be that every store is storing the data in the same format. They all have their own specific format. But when you're performing the global analysis that how your brand is doing, how your brand is performing, certain KPIs would be there. Okay, number of users visited, the amount of profit driven, the pattern or a trend in number of footfalls in a store. How come all of them can be calculated? You need certain data, right? You need data from all the stores. But if data is every store stores the data in a different format, then you need to merge down the data. Now here comes the important thing, that you need a consistent data. It cannot be like there is a set of data that is in different form, there is a set of data in different form, and you have to perform it because at last you will be conducting a global analysis, so you need data to merge down. Then comes the important role of data integration, where you need to merge down all of the data, you need to combine all of the data in a single form, and that will be a single source of information for your further analysis. That's why we have data integration also as a major and an important part when we merge down the data from different sources. Structuring, compatibility, all of them are exactly a part of merging down the data, right? You need to structure the data in a similar format from all the source. Then compatibility, you need to see if certain columns are in a compatible format, consistent. All of the data should be consistent, right? So this is called a data collection, right? Now comes the important part, and you must have heard about all of these things, right? I'm not saying that you must not have, but we'll be talking more in terms of why they are important and why do we do in certain designing down certain pipelines, right? Now data cleaning. Now, whenever we talk about data cleaning, it has certain things, right? Now, on a broader level, data cleaning involves manipulation, quality checks, normalization, standardization, missing values, duplicates. All of them are a part of data cleaning. Now, why data cleaning is important? So, certainly, just take down this as an example. A certain store has collected down the data, but it has certain repeated reports. Now it has a report of a customer, and as you are manually collecting down the data, so there can be cases where exactly there can be manual human errors, right? It is bound to happen that way, right? Whenever we're recording out data in a manual format, there can be errors. Even if you are automating the data pipeline, there can be certain fields that are missing. Now there are missing data, either there is duplicate data, either there are errors in the data. Now, before performing the analysis, cleaning is very important. Why? Because if you will not be cleaning your data and you are directly performing the analysis, there will be false indicators. There will be false output, false outcomes. Now, what do I mean by false outcome? So, suppose there is a column where certain a customer is repeated and he has given a positive feedback, right? Now, we are not taking into consideration the customer ID. Now we will say that, okay, there are so many customers that visited to our store and all have given the positive feedback. Now the major outcome that will come out from the data is the feedback is very positive. But if we have certainly done some error in recording the same customer feedback maybe many times, then definitely that will contribute more, right? So we need to perform these cleaning, right? We need to remove, okay, if there is a customer ID and here selected down a certain feedback, then we are removing all of them if there are duplicates, right? Because in short, what we need is a varied data, a whole lot of scattered data that, okay, different customers when they are visiting to the store, what kind of feedback are they providing? We need feedback from different customer rather than a same customer, right? So that's why missing data, duplicates, errors are important. Now comes the data transformation. Now, data transformation, what exactly the data transformation means? Now, when we talk about data transformation, there are certain important terms that are quite usable, I could say. Normalization, aggregation. Now, what do we mean by? First, we'll go to aggregation. Now, what do you mean by aggregation? Aggregation means certain operations such as you need to sum the data, you need to find out the average, you need to find out many different things, and you need to aggregate the data. Aggregation is important when we perform any sort of data transformation. Why normalization is important? Now there is a certain column that has taken down the certain value, right? Now it is not in the normalized format. Normalized format means it is the values are scattered. We know that it ranges from a to B, right? But it is varied, right? Now we need to convert them into a specific interval, just like we say that, okay, convert this value, all the values between 0 to 1. Now, if they are scattered on a, just suppose this is an axis and they are scattered all over the line, we shrink them into a specific range of 0 to 1. Why? Because it becomes easy for the further step. Even if we are doing modeling, even if we are doing the data analysis, it will be less computed on the resources of your system, right? So that's why standardization and even the normalization are very important when we talk about cleaning the data. Now, data validation, just if you perform cleaning, post cleaning, there can be some validation set that, okay, you need to validate the data so that it is not the cause you have performed cleaning, but there are certain steps that are gone wrong or that are not gone in an ideal way, right? So that's why we say that data validation is important, right? Okay, just a minute. Okay, fine. Now, if we have talked about data collection, then we have talked about data cleaning, then come some of the tools and techniques, right? Now, certain tools and techniques are available Few of them I've already talked about, but yes, here we'll be talking about some of the major. First is SQL. We all know structured query language. Now, this is exactly a very important tool, a database tool where you can manage the data, where you can perform data cleaning, data transformation, every sort of steps, right? And it has its own syntax, it has its own language, a coding language, we say it has its own way of writing down those SQL queries in order to perform those sort of analysis. And now we're going into much more into is what is exactly the SQL, right? Now comes the Python or even any coding language. Now, why Python is a preferred language? Just because it has a very intuitive UI. It has a very usable, not exactly UI. Sorry, it has Python or any coding language. Python has its very own easy syntax to learn. Right now, you can perform certain sort of steps by writing down those scripting. It is exactly a scripting language, so you can write down certain codes and they are very easy to understand, right? So, and again, the manual process becomes a lot more automated when you write down the script. So Python is a preferred, but yes, you can have a refer to any other languages like Java, C Sharp. These are all the languages, but yes, Python, you will find extensive set of tools, tool set of frameworks you can easily use that are pre-built for you to use. Now comes the ETL tools. We talked about ETL, extract, transform, load. Extract, transform, load. In itself, it's very you can easily understand, right? These three things. Extract means extracting the data, data collection. Transform means every sort of cleaning that you need to perform. Now it can involve outlier detection, it can involve cleaning, missing duplicates, etc. Now transform has this load. And what exactly the load means? You collected the data, you have transformed the data. Now the third step is you to load the data. Just because if you are okay, if you are collecting the data from X source, you have performed cleaning transformation. Now you need to load the data into Y source so that your further pipeline can use this data. Because as I said, not ETL is not the complete thing. You need to load the data so that the further process. Now, what is the further process? You need to perform reporting. You need to make a dashboard. Okay, for that dashboard or reporting, you need the process data. And now you process down the data in the transform pipeline, transform step of ETL, but you need to load the data into a specific source. Now, loading can be anything. You can directly load the process data into even SQL, even into you can load data into a CSV files, right? Now, what sort of it is exactly the source and the destination. You need to load the clean data into a particular destination so that your further pipeline can happen. Now, for that, there are pre-built tools. Yes, you can write down. I can myself write down the whole script of extracting, transforming, and load. But now there are certain cloud tools. When I talk about cloud tools, yes, we have Azure Cloud, we have Google Cloud, we have AWS, Amazon Cloud, right? All of them has its own set of tools for ETL process. Just like for ETL in Azure, we have Azure Data Factory, we have AWS Glue. Google Cloud also has a specific tool, and you can easily use them, and they are very intuitive. They have certain UI. Yeah, you need to just configure down the information. It is a bit of drag and drop for you, right? There are certain pre-built transformation steps. Now the process becomes so much easy, right? You're not exactly scratching out, writing down everything from scratch or coding down everything from the base. You have certain toolkits already available in the cloud. But the most important thing is you need to learn those tools, right? And it is a cherry on the cake if you know these tools, right? As a part of data analyst roles, if you know these things, that becomes very important for you because you'll be able to automate easily, right? You'll be able to work on different things. And it has a whole set of features. It's not about only the limited set of features I'm talking about. If you go into that, it has a whole set of features that is already readily available there. You can easily use it. So there are Azure Data Factory, AWS Google, and etc. Right now, before we start with SQL, guys, now SQL was something that we all wanted to talk about how important it is. We'll be going into what kind of steps it has and a certain use case. We'll be discussing about a use case also today where a certain use case would be there and how SQL can be leveraged in that. But I think before we proceed with the SQL, there will be a form that will be shared out by the team. I think you can have a tool just because if you're planning, I think career transition, if you are planning for a certain skill set improvisation, you need to do that. It is important to have a certain roadmap for you, right? Now that roadmap is important just because it will guide you to move in a certain defined direction, because there are certain various steps to reach down to an outcome, but it is important to have a solid roadmap built up for you according to your experience or according to your expertise, right? So there will be a form that will be shared out by the team. Spare 1 or 2 minutes to fill that form, and we'll be resuming the session. We'll be resuming the session in 1 or 2 minutes, but I think it is important just because the team will get to know what kind of background you guys are coming from and what kind of expectation you have set. Some needs a career transition, some needs a more enhanced form of skill set, some want to learn SQL. So there are different programs here, and you can definitely get enrolled in that. But yes, your exactly your input will be important for the team. So I think the team will be sharing the form. Just have a look at it and fill it. And in the meanwhile, we'll be resuming the session. Yeah, I think the form is already shared, guys. Just spare 1 or 2 minutes and fill out the form quickly so that we can resume the session. Okay, guys. I hope people have filled down the form. If you have not, just fill it. And in a specific way, team will be reaching out to you as per your requirements, right? Now, what is SQL? We were discussing about the role of SQL in data analytics and data analyst roles, and how come SQL is important for us, right? So SQL means a structured query language, and it is a programming language, right? Now it has, as I talked about, it has a certain syntax for you to able to query down the data, how to query down the data, perform certain set of transformation. For that, you need a certain way, certain syntax. So that is called a SQL structured query language. It's a programming language and it is used for storing or processing information. Now, storing and processing information is fine, but we've written out in relational database. Now, all sort of information we are storing in SQL is certainly related in itself, right? We have SQL is a relational database. We store the structured information there, right? It cannot be like any sort of information you can just pull down and store down in SQL. No, it has to have a certain way, a certain way. What I mean by certain way, the information needs to be in a row or a column format, right? Because all of the information that is stored in SQL is stored in a tabular form. By tabular form, I mean certain rows and columns, right? Now, columns has a certain definition and a schema, and rows will be the amount of data you'll be storing. So a relational data basically means storing information tabular form. Now, SQL, yes, SQL is used extensively in managing and manipulating the data. I talked about managing, right? When I talked about the database management, right? It is important for you to manage the data, and SQL is definitely the go-to tool for managing the data. But when we talk about manipulating the data, manipulation again means the transformation. You need to apply certain set of transformation that will manipulate the data, that will change down the data as per your use case, right? So that's why it is important when we talk about data analysis, even for managing or manipulating, right? Now, what sort of analysis, what sort of manipulating you're performing of the data, at last what is important is you're able to extract the outcome, you're able to extract the valuable insights. Now this is very important, just because whatever sort of data analysis you will be performing, guys, at last what will be important is the what sort of analysis you derive, what sort of KPIs. Now I'm repeating KPIs, we'll be discussing what are the KPIs, but for you to understand KPIs, key performance indicator, right? I took down a store example, right? Now, what are the KPIs of the final outcome? Number of footfalls, profit percent by every quarter or by every month, uh, feedback. How the feedback is, what is the trend of the feedback? Like, is it positive or is it going certainly negative? All of these are the performance indicator of what we talk as KPIs. And why KPIs are important? KPIs are important so as to design a certain roadmap for them in order to design a certain way that okay, if my footfalls are it are decreasing in a store, what I need to do in order to increase that. Now, why KPI was important for the store? Because if KPI would not have been there, they would not be able to know that, okay, from the past 2 quarters, the footfall has decreased in a particular store. Now, what new we need to do in order to increase that? If the KPI would not have been there, they would not know this information. That's why KPIs are important because yes, we are collecting from the large data, but that data needs to be processed in order to derive that KPI. So certainly for every use case, we have KPIs defined, or it is important to have those KPIs in hand when you are performing those sort of analysis, because definitely your certain analysis can depend upon the KPI you have, right? What kind of KPI you need to derive it, right? Okay, so here comes an interesting thing. What are the skills? Okay, what are the SQL skills, or basically what how so what I have done is basically made SQL into a certain ladder format for you, right? Now, definitely there is a basic SQL that you need to know. Then there is an intermediate where we talk about okay something more than basic. Then it is the advanced form where all sort of complex thing will come upon that. Okay, you need to know all this, and then come the practical usage. Practical usage, as we all know, whenever we are learning any programming language, we need to have hands-on on the practical real world use cases. These are very important because then you will be able to actually think down in that way, right? It's not that only you're mugging up or you're learning certain skill. No, you need to have hands-on, just because that whatever you have learned will be applied in a practical way. So when you talk about basic SQL guys, there are data types. Now, every programming language has a data type, and yes, SQL also has it. SQL has its way of own storing down the string, integer, decimals, and whatnot. All sort of. Now, the major I've talked about int, string, and decimal, right? All of it, even the date time, right? You need to store data in a certain column is the date in a date time format, and that will contain the data and a time. So it has a predefined data type. Now, all those sort of predefined data types, you definitely need to use it whenever you're defining down the schema. So you're storing down certain data in a tabular format, you need to define what sort of column has what sort of data type. So that's why data types are very important, and it is the basic thing that you need to know. And all sort of basics queries, right? You need to select down a data. You need to know, okay, how to select down. There are certain keywords like select, what sort of columns you need to select, then from which table you are performing. Now select from, we'll have a look at the queries, but just I'm telling you on a very broader level, these are all the keywords that are used whenever we're writing down the query. Select, from, where, order by, limit, all of them forms a part of actually extracting down, performing some sort of predefined thing, just like you want to order the data by a certain format, descending or in ascending. You can do, you need to extract top 3 rows, you can use the limit keyword. Then comes the filtering, where you say that okay, I need a data. Now I have a large data set and it contains data of all the stores, but currently I need the data set. Currently, I need the data from a X store. Now we have a column called X in the data, which is exactly the column that defines, okay, this data point is from which store. If you need to do this, you need to perform filtering. You need to filter upon the data. And how SQL exactly makes that easy for you is it has a defined keyword called where, or even a like, or even a in. You can use these sort of keywords to exactly perform those sort of filtering in the data, where you say that okay, I'm pulling down the data, but I need a data set from a specific source. So select star from maybe the table stores data where my store name is X. Now it will scan upon the data. It will say that okay, wherever the store name is X, pull out that data. So this is called the filtering, right? Now we now this is all something basic you need to know. Then we come on to the more of the intermediate step where we tell that okay, SQL has a whole lot more things than only having those pulling down the data, performing filtering, having output in certain way. There is a whole lot. Now what happens if your data is divided into different tables, right? Now, what do you mean by divided into? You have certain normalization forms, right? Now you have certain schema format also. There is a star schema in SQL where you store down the data into different tables, just like, right? Now, it can be the case that there is a stores data, but you're not exactly storing the data, and it is also not recommended to store all of the data in a single table. You certainly normalize the data. Now, suppose there is a data of stores. Now, one of them has information related to stores. Now, one of them has information related to users, one of them has information related to sales, but all of them are joined down into a single parent table, and all of them has its own child table, right? And certainly IDs are referring to that. Now, if you need to accumulate down the data, you need to perform certain joins. Now, joins are exactly inner, left, right, even full. Now, what sort of joins, how joins helps if you want to exactly query down two tables, query down more than one table. So you have a table called sales, and you have a table called uh, stores names, right? And the table called sales has a store ID. But whenever you are pulling down the data, you need store name and the sales, total sales of a particular store. Now, if you have a store ID, yes, store ID, you can perform certain sort of operation, but you need to refer that ID into the second table, that is a store's name table, where every ID is associated to the name of the store. In that way, you can use joins, joining down to one or more table, two tables, even three tables, you can join down in order to pull out the data. Aggregation, if we talk about, there are certain aggregation that are there, some average, minimum, maximum. You need to find out maximum profit, minimum profit, average profit. What's the average profit? You need to group the data. You need to group the data by certain stores, right? Okay, if I want to group down data by certain stores, so first all of the X store information, then Y, then Z. You need to group. There is a keyword called group by. Then there are subqueries. Definitely, you can write down subqueries in more complex form, which will give you more information, right? Now, advanced SQL, we slowly and steadily move up the ladder, and it is certainly the topmost level where you have more sort of operations such as dense rank, row number. Now, these are all the windowing function, and it is again a part of a syntax in SQL where you have predefined. You need to just use it. Now, suppose you want to do it, you need to rank down certain information in SQL. So SQL provides you with a keyword called dense rank, and even the row number, they can be used as per the requirement, and you can rank down the data easily. You need to rank down specific, you need to rank down customers by the amount of purchasing they have done, right? Now, we have the data in a single table. It has the user information, it has the user, how many times, what kind of purchases he has done, and how much amount of spend he has spent. But you want top three customers with the highest spending in a particular quarter. You can use the rank, you can use the row number there. Now, these functions can internally define the logic so as to basically rank down and give you those sort of information. So that is how important SQL is, right? You'll be slowly and steadily, as I'm moving up the ladder, I'm including more sort of functions and giving you knowledge that how easy it becomes while you're writing down those SQL queries, right? Now we've talked about subqueries. There are complex subqueries where you will have query inside a query and inside a query, right? It will become more nested, but that all makes sense just because we are querying down data from different sources. Now we have stored procs, we have functions. Now, as we have functions in programming, we have function in SQL too, right? You can, if you, there is a common functionality and you need to bind that into a function, you can prepare a function in SQL. Stored procedure in a way is exactly wrapping down a certain logic in a defined format, and that stored proc, you can use it anywhere by providing a, okay, what will be the input and what will be the output easily. So there are stored procedures that can be used. And the performance tuning, yes, uh, we all know different ways of writing down the SQL queries, but there is an optimal way too. Now, how we can reach down to that optimal way? Either doing some changes in the schema or having your SQL queries more in a refined format. So that comes the last step, that is called the performance tuning. Now come the practical usage. We have talked about a whole lot of SQL. We have understood what kind of function it has, but the last and least, exactly not the least, but yes, the last and the most important is the real world scenarios. Okay, we have certain data set available, right? Now we need to perform some sort of analysis. How are we doing it? Use SQL in that data in order to perform that step. So design certain ETL pipeline. So as soon as you are not doing it, you're not able to understand that, right? So that's why this is important, having the real world scenarios, ETL pipelines, all of that, right? Now, SQL and data analytics. So this I have just jotted down few of the important things when we talk about SQL fundamentals, like how SQL and data analytics help. SQL fundamentals, we have all talked about fundamental. Now, data retrieval, the all of the select clauses that are there, right, in order to retrieve the data. Data manipulation. When we talk about data manipulation, either basically updating the data, deleting the data, all sort of things, right? Aggregation, again, we talked about in the previous slide. Addition, sum, average, minimum, maximum, all of them are aggregations, right? Joining multiple tables. We have talked about joins, right? How two tables were joined to give out the output data. Data filtering and sorting. You need to filter data. Okay, data from a specific store, data from a specific country, data from a specific customer. All of them are filtering and sorting the data. You need to sort down the data. You can do it. Ascending, descending, any of them can be used. You have predefined syntax. Now, there are two things when we talk about SQL, guys: data manipulation and data definition. Whenever we talk about manipulation, it means certainly changing the data. And there are three keywords that help us to achieve this data manipulation: insert, update, delete. Insert is basically inserting down the data. Update means basically updating down the certain data as per the requirement. Deleting means deleting down the data. As easy as that. Data definition is more in terms of when you are defining down the data. Create command is used in SQL to define down the table in a certain schema. So you define down the schema. Okay, I have 5 columns, out of which one would be int, having this data, etc., etc., all of that. So it all comes into create. Alter, when you want to alter the call. So suppose you created down the table, and then you are there is a requirement that no, you have to store down one more field related to the customers. You can alter the table. Dropping means again, you can drop down the table, right? Database management in reporting, I guess we have a bit covered about that, just because we'll be going into more into the use case, right? Now, I've just given you an example. This kind of data is there, data in a row and column format. That is the SQL table for you guys. This kind of employee ID, first name, last name, salary, and all of this thing can be there. And then these are the queries, right? To get down the all employed is select star, first name, last name, select first names, salary. These are the column names, right? And from this is the table name. All the unique, you have a distinct keywords. Now, this is certainly related to aggregation, average salary. And why, as I have used, so whenever you perform aggregation, you need to define, okay, the final column, what exactly will it be? What will be the name of that? Because you have performed average over the salary. So you need to define as. This is called an alias in SQL. You need to group by department. So every department average salary will be computed by just look at the SQL statement. Select department average salary as average salary from table name group by certain column name. This is how you can define them. It looks easy. These are the basic SQL queries for you, but it is not the end of the world, right? It has a whole lot of things that SQL has, and I've just given you an idea, guys, to have it. Okay, what sort of SQL queries are there, and how you can exactly perform those things, right? Now we'll be jumping into a use case. Now, this is a certain use case that has been designed in order to make you understand that how SQL is important, and with the use of SQL, what sort of things you can do. Okay, so certainly there is a problem statement for you, right? There is a BI team, right? The insights team that provides insights into the following business questions. So these are the business questions, or maybe these are the KPIs for you. Certain people want to understand how their business is doing, and they have set down specific pointers, or maybe the KPI. What are the number of registered users by the country? What sort of users who made their first payment? What is the weekly cancellation rate? Now, this is, if you will be understanding the question, this is more related to the, when we talk about, okay, we have the certain spending data of users, right? There are users who have registered, and there is certainly spending data associated to that user, that they make a certain booking, right? So we have data in distributed format, and we have these all set of KPIs that we need to compute, just as to give the team or provide the team an insights, a deeper insight into how their business is doing. And if they want to know, they need to certainly set different KPIs or different pointers. These are the pointers: booking behavior per year, what is the trend, and then finally create a dashboard for them. Now, dashboard is very important, just because you perform all sort of analysis, give them the outcome, but if the outcome is more in a user intuitive form, it becomes easy for the end person to understand that. That's why. Okay, so we have certain use case where these are the KPIs. Now, what exactly will you do? First is the data preparation or even the data collection, you can say, right? You need to pull down the data, and the data is available in three different sources. One of the source has a booking data, one of the second source has a payment data, third has the user data. Now, there are three sources of data. All of these three sources will actually help you to provide insights into the question that I have written down for you, right? Now, you've collected down the data from different sources. Now involves the data cleaning. You design a certain pipeline and you clean the data. You perform all sort of cleaning inside the data. Okay, if my data has missing values, if my data has null values, I want to remove it. If my particular column I want to have as it as an int or a string, you perform all sort of cleaning, and then your data is readily available in a user format. Now there are certain tools that you can use to provide this analytical insights that I've talked about, all of those KPIs, right? Now, one of the ways that you can do is, I'm telling you, there are many different ways you can approach to this problem. You use a AnyDB, you actually dump down all of the data that you have collected into SQL, suppose. Okay. Now you have a tool called Microsoft Power BI, right? Now it is again a kind of a tool which helps you to prepare all those sort of, have you like, if you have not worked upon Microsoft PY, Power BI is a kind of analysis tool or more of a tool that can help you to do analysis or create down those intuitive charts, pie charts, line charts, and everything, right? It is a kind of tool that is used by many analysts, right? Now, all of the SQL queries you can run there. Now, whenever you're dumping down data into SQL, what sort of analysis, how you to pull down the data, if you need to perform certain transformation, you can perform that. And whatever analysis you have, you are exporting it as XML or even in any kind of format. And then if you are using XML, yes, you export down the result into XML, and then those XML files are imported into Power BI, right? For the final analysis, you can do all sort of analysis or even the visualization stuff that I talked about, because Power BI makes it very easy for you to perform those visualization and directly takes down those SQL queries and perform those sort of visualization. Either you can perform uh, the queries and store down the result in an XML file, right? Now, the second thing is you're directly extracting the data into Power BI, right? And there you can use the Power Query. So there is a Power Query inside the Power BI, and it is a kind of thing that makes it more easy for you to perform some sort of functions or some sort of operation, designing them, and then you can do all sort of analysis, right? You can have a reporting generated, you can create down everything. Now if you'll have a look into it more into Microsoft Power BI, you will understand what is the Power Query, what is DAX, right? DAX is exactly a concept in Power BI which makes you easy to perform certain operations, right? So there are various ways to do that, right? You can use any sort of analytical tools. Power BI is one, Tableau is second. There is a tool called Tableau also where you can perform these sort of things, all sort of queries you can write down, and then there can be visualization that are generated, and it is very intuitive. Just have a look at it, you will have a idea that it makes your task so much easy, right? Okay, so here I'm giving you just a very brief example of exactly what kind of SQL query. So this was our first KPI, right? Down number of registered users. So how we have approached it, we have count down total number of registered users, then grouping it by country, and lastly ordering them. So see, the select keyword is used, the from keyword is used, the group by and order by. Only by using these sort of keywords, you're able to pull down a certain KPI. How easy it for you, right? You have refer to users table. This is the alias, again users you. Then you have group by the country code, then you count down all the user ID inside this country code, and then you have actually performed the descending. Like you have moderated the output in descending order so that you can easily see what are the topmost registered user as per the country. Here we talked about the weekly cancellation rate. Oh, how many number of users are exactly canceling their booking? Now you see this. This is more sort of complex query, right? You use left join. So you use left join and you use left join on a similar table. Either you can use it on a different table, or as per the requirements. Here the requirement was that you need to use it on the same table. You can join down same table again in order to pull down certain information. So here what we have done is we have extracted the year week. There was a column called time where you have extracted year, and it again SQL provides you a function called strf time where you can provide down what you need to extract it in a defined format and then the column name. Extracted the year week, then you have counted all the bookings and then the percentage of booking that were cancelled, right? So this is the formula that you have used for percentage. You have all the booking is calculated, then all the cancelled booking, then both of them are used to find out the percentage. And here it is, you select from, left join, group by, order, and here see, this is the filtering step where you see that okay, the status column should be cancelled because what I mean to find is the cancellation rate. It just gives you an example that how easy or more complex SQL can get, but you need to have a basic understanding. You'll be easily able to perform all sort of write down SQL queries. Now, what are the additional skills that are needed for data analyst roles, right? I talked about SQL. I talked about the data visualization. The Power BI we have discussed. There's a Tableau again. So it's not that you need to learn every tool. One of the tool, if you have in your kitty, that is more than sufficient. But you need to have a good hands-on on that. If you know these tools, you can easily create dashboards, reporting, data storytelling. It is very important. Data storytelling means how you actually narrate about the data, what kind of analysis, whatever you have performed upon, you need to tell that. You need to tell that analysis. You need to actually provide that analysis in a way that is more understandable for the end user. That's why data storytelling is again important. Basic statistics and probability is not that you need to know the probability statistics in a very refined way, but the basics should be clear. You need to know that okay, how come what does the significance of mean, median, even some sort of distributions are there. Just because you are performing those sort of analysis, you need to know that pre-hand, right? Excel, we all have worked upon Excel, but there are certain functions, VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, pivot tables. You need to know that because certainly there are some time we are doing the analysis directly on the Excel because Excel in itself is a major tool that has a whole lot of functions that you can exactly do it. So Excel, programming language I've talked about. Why Python? Python is a preferred one because there are certain libraries called Pandas, NumPy, and Matplotlib. Pandas provide you with a framework that you can load down the data and perform all of the data transformation and the cleaning steps. NumPy helps you to load down the data, helps you to exactly perform some sort of analysis in a very optimal form. Matplotlib is a totally a visualization library in Python. Soft skills are important because be it any role, the soft skills will be important. You need to communicate, you need to solve the problem, you need to manage the project. All of the soft skills are important, right? And now comes the last, the interview tips, right, for all of you, right? So you need to better understand what sort of roles and responsibilities are needed for a specific role. When you're applying for data analyst role, just have a look at the roles and responsibilities. You'll be able to picturize, okay, what kind of role the particular org is looking for and what sort of skill set I need to have for it. So you can have certainly, there are so many roles and responsibilities as per the different roles the organization are offering. You can have a look at that. You need to have guys good project. Only the theoretical knowledge will not do. Again, I'm repeating, no theoretical knowledge will make you perfect. You need to perform those concepts on the project. That's why we more highlight upon there are so many public data sets available. You need to perform good projects on them and you need to understand what sort of KPIs or what sort of analysis I was doing. And this practical expert will add on to your final thing. SQL concept, yes, you need to have strong SQL. We have discussed about how important is SQL in data analytics, right? You need to have a any one data visualization tool knowledge. We have talked about Power BI, Tableau. If you know any one of them, it is very good. There are many sort of other tools too, but yes, the most, I think the profound are Tableau and Power BI. You need to have Excel knowledge. Yes, it cannot be negated. There are certain odds when certain analysis you're directly doing on the Excel. So you need to have a basic Excel knowledge, good in-depth understanding of use case. Just because one of the use cases I discussed today, there are so many use cases, and during interviews too, you are asked on specific use cases. You need to realize down, you need to have a critical thinking, you need to perform logical stuff, but all of them will contribute if you are understanding the use case. So you can go down to the various use case available in order to understand, okay, what sort of use cases are there, and then what operation needs to perform in order to actually do justice to a particular use case. Data metrics understanding. Data metrics are again the KPIs that I have discussed, because certainly business will need these data metrics or the KPIs for you, right? What sort of what sort of things you have exactly outcome calculated, all of them will form into a term called data metrics or even the KPI, performance key performance indicator. Good collaboration and communication. We all know how important in this real world is communicating down your thoughts, communicating down your skills, right? So collaboration and communication will be very important, right? So yes, I think this is a whole lot of summary that we have talked about today. I hope, guys, the session was intuitive for all of you. I'll certainly have a list of questions, career advice. So, guys, the team will be connecting with you shortly. I guess as soon as I take some of the question, the team will be connecting with you. Please stay here so that you can have an interaction with them. They'll be talking about the certain boot camp they are offering. You can definitely have a look at it. There you will get a chance to actually interact with the program experts like me, and there are many others, right, from different industry. Will give you a more picture around the industry, how certainly things happen, right? Okay, I think more of them I have already covered. Data and explain data. So data transformation you already talked about, right? Data transformation is transforming down the data, just like standardization, normalization, all of those sort of steps. You need to trans the term in itself is very self understanding, right? You need to transform the data. You need to change down the data in a certain format, right? And you do it, make it less computed. Further analysis will become less computed, and certain analysis you will need to perform that particular transformation in order to have it in a certain way, right? And you can easily go down to the web in order to understand what kind of transformation, what kind of possible transformation exists, right? Okay, the more about transformation. Yes, yes. So yeah, I think more of this is related to, I think the team will be talking about. Just stay here in the chat. I guess team, can you just join down? Maybe people. I think majority of them has questions related to the course or the boot camp. I think you can better answer that.
Yeah, hi Anuj. So first of all, like thank you so much for such an informative session. And as we can see, there are a lot of questions around the job bootcamp being provided by Coding Ninjas. What is the curriculum? How one can transition into the IT industry, or how one can grab better opportunities by upskilling into the IT industry. So for that, we have our program manager, Karan Khanna, with us. He'll be taking another 10 to 15 minutes where he'll be explaining all sorts of things being provided by Coding Ninjas in the job bootcamp itself. So Anuj, once again, thank you so much for such an informative session. And now I would request Karan Khanna to take on from him. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Thank you so much. So I would like to thank the mentor for such an insightful session. And hi, everyone. So my name is Karan and I am the senior program expert from Job Bootcamp team. So I'll just take 5 to 10 more minutes to explain what Job Bootcamp is and how it can benefit you. Plus, we will also reveal some maximum scholarships that you can get on Job Bootcamp program. And the only way to do it is by dropping your name and contact number in the chat box. So let me just present my screen. I'll give you a walk through the prerequisites to become a data analyst and how Job Bootcamp can be a right fit in whatever you need. So I'll just share my screen. I hope my screen is visible. You can just put up in chat a yes or no. All right, great. So if we directly start with the interview roadmap, that how we are making sure, that interview preparation is also there, because ultimately, as the name suggests, it's a job bootcamp course. So there are 5 rounds of interviews. Whenever you appear for a job role of data analyst, there are 5 rounds of interviews: screening round, technical round, case study, tools and technology, managerial round. So for every given round, there will be a proper training, a proper interview preparation in which we will be giving you a proper training that how you are supposed to clear that interview, which is the main part of the course, right? Because ultimately it's a job boot camp. So everybody who is there in the session, they are looking for jobs. So how to get a job as a data analyst? These are the 5 steps. These are the 5 interview rounds on which you guys will be trained on by our highly skilled faculties. If you talk about Coding Ninjas, right, we were established in 2016 with a mission to bridge the gap between India's traditional education system and industry requirements by providing quality education. And as you guys already know that we are now a subsidiary of Naukri.com as well. And we have that 8 years of legacy, a journey of success. You can see the clear figures in front of you. We have 1.5 lakh plus learners who have cracked their dream jobs in top tech companies with 1400 plus alumni in Mang, and 1 CR plus is the highest CTC after course completion. So this is the journey of success from last 8 years of Coding Ninjas. Now talking about the job bootcamp, what is job bootcamp? Why we call it a job bootcamp? It's not a normal specifically focused, personalized, and community driven only for working professionals. So starting from the eligibility at first, the eligibility to enroll